What if I told you that one of the most ubiquitous items in camping has a dark side? And that dark side can cost the National Park Service, public beaches, and municipalities around the country a load of money. Well, it's true. And what is that ubiquitous item that we all see camping or use ourselves? It is this little disposable 1-pound propane canister. These items fuel our stoves, they fuel our lanterns, they're used everywhere. And the problem is that once they're used, you have to dispose of the canister. In 2014, and I know that's a while ago, but that's the data that I have, in 2014, one national park alone collected 23,000 of these cans, and in fact, every year in the United States, between 40 and 60 million of these are sold. That's a lot of canisters, and that is a lot of trash. And what makes it even worse is despite the fact that a lot of people just chuck this into the trash, these are considered hazardous waste. And in reality, these should be returned to a hazardous waste collection site where they can be disposed of properly. And in fact, I just read in an Expedition Portal article that disposing of these cans can cost all of $65 per canister. I know that seems really high. I'm guessing the average cost is lower, but still, even if the average cost is $10, that's a lot of money that somebody's spending to dispose of these things. The problem has gotten so bad that California just enacted a law that would become effective in 2028 called Senate Bill 2080 that essentially outlaws these disposable 1-pound canisters. Now there is a solution, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So stick around and let's look at refillable 1-pound propane bottles. Now for a long time, the one and only refillable 1-pound propane canister was this little beauty from Flame King. In fact, I did a review and sort of showed how this was used in a previous video. I'm going to go ahead and link that above. If you want to take a look at it, it shows you how the system works. It shows us refilling a bottle and just the whole process and how easy it really is. But Flame King for a long time had this market to themselves. And recently, Mr. Heater, who makes the Buddy Heater, has come up with a competitor called the Fuel Keg. And what we're going to do today is we're going to compare and contrast these two systems to see if there's one that's better than the other. But before we start showing the contrast, let's talk about what these have in common. So first off, both of these cylinders are DOT 39 rated cylinders, which means that they're designed, engineered to be refilled and reused multiple times. That means they have thicker walls, they have better seams, and the valves are more robust. The 1-pound disposable canisters are not designed to be refilled. I know you can go on Amazon, buy an adapter, and refill those, but they are not designed for that, and they can have some dramatic consequences if a seam fails or a valve fails. So I know I'll get a lot of comments saying that that's what people have done forever and it works great and all of that, but these are designed for that and they're engineered to be safe under those conditions. So that's what I've chosen to go with, and that's what I've chosen to talk about today. So let's talk about the obvious differences in these two bottles and what Fuel Keg I think has done to address probably one of the bigger complaints on the Flame King. But the first and most obvious difference is the cap. If you can see, the Flame King has a cap that looks like a big plastic crown. I assume that they designed this cap so that if you dropped it, you wouldn't damage the valve. Let's face it, that's an expensive valve you've paid for. Fuel Keg comes with a traditional cap that essentially is designed to protect the threads and keep the interior clean. If you look at the valves on these two refillable bottles, you'll notice that there is a groove cut in the valve that's not in the disposable bottle. And that groove is designed to accommodate a pin in the refilling aperture that opens up the valve at the bottom of the groove. So one big difference between these bottles is the bleeder valve. And to understand the importance of that, just take a quick minute to understand how these bottles work. As you consume propane out of the bottle, it's replaced with air. So when you hook this bottle to a 20-pound propane tank and start to move propane back into the bottle, you have to displace the air. And in order to do that, when you attach the filler arm, it opens the pin at the bottom of the valve that we just looked at, and opening that pin allows you to open a bleeder valve. The way you activate the bleeder valve on these two bottles is different. So on a traditional Flame King, in order to open the bleeder valve, you have a small pin here that's opened up with a Allen wrench. So you open up the valve, the bleeder opens up, and as the bottle fills, it's allowed to expel air. And once you see propane, you use the Allen wrench again, and you close the valve. So here's where I think Fuel Keg took a look at the Flame King bottle and said, we can do I won't say better job, but a more convenient way to open up that bleeder valve. And what they did is they added a ring on the bottle that all you do is you turn that ring and you open the bleeder valve. You do not need a separate tool to operate the Fuel Keg. So in this instance, I'm going to give the nod to Fuel Keg. That is a simpler way to do it. Each of these refill systems has three things in common. They each have a refillable bottle. They each have some sort of stand for your 20-pound bottle. And then they have the refill nozzle. So let's take a look at both of these systems and show you what the difference is. These are the fuel arms for both of the systems. This is Flame King's, and this is Fuel Keg's. And they're very similar. They have the attachment point, you have an opening that you have to press down while the propane is filling, and each of these has an attachment point for their 1-pound bottle and the pin that I referenced that opens up the bleeder valve. Now the pin on these two is slightly different, where the Flame King has a half moon shape and opens up the outside of their ring. Fuel Keg has a true pin that presses down on the center. So clearly these two are very similar. Although I do think the Flame King's is a bit more stout and built better. It's a few eighths of an ounce heavier. I like the knurled connector as opposed to the sort of connector that looks like a wrench. It's easier to use. It feels better in the hand. I think the connection point, the pivot for the arm that you have to depress to fill it, is a pin in the shaft, whereas the Fuel Keg is sort of riveted on and is just a little bit lighter duty. So I think in this case, I would give the nod to the Flame King aperture, with one exception. I don't like the fact that Flame King, you can spin the pin around so that it's not always in the same place. Not a big deal, I'll show you how I manage that. But the Fuel Keg, the pin is always in the same place, it doesn't move, so once you get used to where it's located, it's easy to line your bottle. So this is a stand that comes with the Flame King. As you can see, it's a bottom plate with two arms that connect via bolts and wing nuts, 5 of those, and you can put this together once, put it on a shelf, and never have to do it again, or you can take it apart between fills and put it in a drawer. And the way this works, you simply invert your propane tank, set it on top, and you're ready to go. And the reason I really like this stand is when you're ready to connect your fuel attachment, you simply reach in and attach it. There's a ton of room under this thing. The other benefit is that when you're fueling, you can be on a flat surface. There's enough room that your bottle can fit on the arm without having to hang over something. And I told you there's a way I manage that pin issue. So once you get the bottle to this position, your fuel is shut off, you haven't opened it yet, you simply turn this sideways, you find your pin, you line your bottle up with the pin, because you know where it is, and you tighten the bottle, right? Easy peasy. You don't have to crawl under it, look around. And then when you get your bottle on, you just spin it back, tighten everything up, open your bottle, and you're good to go. Another thing I like about this arm, once you tighten this down and you get it snug, if you look right here, as I try to move this arm up and down, there's really no wiggle. That is a solid connection. It's butted up against the propane bottle very snugly. So there's no really area for that to leak propane. Now there is a big difference between these stands. With the Fuel Keg, the stand involves 3 separate legs with thumb screws. And what you do is when you're ready to refill, you attach the 3 legs to your canister, like so. And that's your system, and you then invert the bottle. So first thing you notice is there's a lot less space under this stand. And then to attach your armature, you then reach under. As you can see, there is room to run it, but not nearly as much. You're sort of hampered by the bottle itself. And then to get under here and open your bottle is more difficult. Now you can do all of this before you invert it, of course. And then the other thing, as you can see, is this is not tall enough. You have to have this hanging over the edge of whatever you're setting it on. So I think that's one disadvantage. Now the other thing I've noticed is if you look at this where I'm moving this around, there's a lot more play between the filling arm and the nozzle on your big tank. Potentially that is a source for a leak. Now I have used this, I haven't had any problem, but if you bend it or move it while you've got your valve open, I think you could get some leakage. So at the end of the day, after using both systems, you may ask, Dick, which one of these do you think is best? And I would have to say that there is no best. I like the bottle that comes with the Fuel Keg. I like the fact you don't need a tool to open the bleeder valve. Does that mean that the Flame King bottle is useless? Absolutely not. I've used it for years. Using the tool is no big deal. Fuel Keg's just easier. I like the filling kit that comes with the Flame King. I like it being taller. I like to be able to reach under and tighten and open the bottles without having to bend down. I think the arm that comes with the Flame King is slightly more robust. So the advantage there goes to Flame King. At the end of the day, my recommendation is to watch prices and buy whichever one you find on sale. Currently, the Flame King Fuel Kit, which comes with a bottle, is $63. The Fuel Keg is $29.99, but you have to buy a bottle. It doesn't come with a bottle, so the bottle's another $18.25. So that kit with a bottle cost $48.24. So Advantage Fuel Keg when it comes to price on Amazon. However, our local regional building supply store, Menards, currently has the Flame King system on sale for $34.99. So definitely shop around. I hope you like this content. If you do, please take a moment, hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, give us a thumbs up, and share this with your like-minded friends. And as always, take care, and we'll see you outdoors.